Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So, in last episode, if you didn't catch it, we took on the Washington Capitals in the second round of the playoffs for the second consecutive season, and once again, we managed to beat them, but now we have a kind of a tough task, because we're going to be going up against a 17-5 winning Florida Panthers team. So last year we played a really tough Toronto team in the conference finals. This year we play the Florida Panthers, who are also very tough. So regardless, we're going to have to go through a tough team in order to try and get ourselves back to that Cup finals, which makes a lot of sense. The series with Washington was an interesting one, I would say. We definitely had some interesting games where I don't think we played great, but we also had ones that we did play great. It was a little bit inconsistent at times, but for the most part, I think it was a pretty good series because you could see game number one, we lost 4-1, and it was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know if we're going to lose 2 straight games. Are we going to have the trend where we just lose multiple home games? Well, we managed to respond with a 5-3 victory, so a nice little win there. Not by a ton of goals, but at least it was a nice close game. Then we won 3-0, so it was good to see Sorokin back into his game. Good defensive play for our team. And then we won 2-1, so at that point, I was like, our team is really good defensively. I think we're definitely trending in the right direction. Then we allowed 5 goals and lost 5-3, so at that point, I was a little bit worried that they would all of a sudden start scoring a lot of goals, maybe force it back to a Game 7. Well, we managed to respond with a nice 5-2 victory in Washington. So, in general, I'd say as of the last three of the last 4 games, I'd say we played great defensively. It was just this one game that was kind of a little bit of a hiccup. There is definitely still some things about this team that isn't simulating the best, but I think it should be still good. I mean, we were good in the first round, I would say. My second round might have fallen off a little bit, but I think we could beat Florida, but it's going to take a lot of work because this Florida Panthers team is definitely one of the most stacked teams we've seen. I think even more stacked maybe than Toronto was last year when we played them. Because if we head on over to their roster, their top 6 and their even their top 9 is just filthy. Like, I'm kind of curious on their cap situation on how they have such a good team. But you can see this is what they're rocking with going into this conference finals. This first line, absolutely filthy when everybody's at 94, 95 overall. That's insane. Second line has Verhaeghe, Bennett, and Samoskevich. That's a very good second line. And then you can see on the third line, even like Grayson Sachin and Luosterainen aren't bad for a third line. But you have Anton Lundell as a third line center, which is insane. So they have just very good center depth down the middle. And then they also have a good grindy fourth line with Kastelik, Sordif, and Greer. So in general, that offensive core is probably one of the best I've ever seen. In terms of defense, they even got like really good stud defenders like Ekblad, Forsling still. Boqvist is technically a good defenseman in this. Matt Dumba's not really that bad either for a top 6 defenseman, but then they have Alexiak and Vakanainen, who are a little bit on the weaker side of things, but still pretty damn good defensive core. And then their goaltending, they have a really good goaltender with Knight, and then Bobrovsky's probably going to be retiring relatively soon. So they have good goaltending, they have good defense, they have good offense. Like, in general, this team is probably one of the best AI built teams I've seen in this game. But I do want to take a look at their cap situation because I am curious on how they're able to afford everybody. Like, I feel like probably somebody like Mackie Samoskevich, he's probably like on a cheap contract right now, and once that contract ends, he's probably going to be a guy that hits the free agency. That's just my guess, but not too sure on that. Looks like Samoskevich is making 5.805, yeah, for 3 years, and then he becomes the UFA. At that point, they also lose Matthew Tkachuk potentially and Alexander Barkov, so I can see Florida probably winning Stanley Cups all the way until that point, because at least, like, once they get to that point, they're going to have to fork out a ton of money to keep these guys around, likely. But, yeah, those 3 guys are all up for renewal at the same season. Anton Lundell is also that same season, so they're spending a lot of money in cap space. They actually only have $818,000 in cap space, so they're just barely able to afford this entire roster they currently have constructed, which is something I was expecting. So, damn, yeah, that's kind of insane. They even have like Kastelik on an $800,000 deal right now. Goaltending, Spencer Knight's a pending UFA. Oh boy, I didn't know that. So that's the player that's likely going to be leaving the team, I would assume, at the end of the season, because he's making 3.305 and he's a pending UFA, right? So he's going to want big bucks after a great season like this. If Florida doesn't have the cap space, they might have to make some substantial moves in the offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if we do beat Florida and what they end up doing in this offseason, what they decide to let go of or decide to trade away to free up cap space. I don't know if they will. because a lot of these core players are guys that they would keep here for probably their entire careers. But like Ekblad has an extension kicking in next season as well for 3 years. So a lot of big contracts on that team, and I'm kind of glad that we aren't in that type of a cap situation, at least going forward. But anyways, before we get into this conference finals matchup with the Florida Panthers, let's get into your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode. And then we might actually take a look at how we did against them during the regular season and then get into our matchup. So the first comment is from Sanotaku, who says, nice to see the boys from Seattle contributing, even in a small way. Time for you to beat a cheese team. And yeah, technically we are, I guess, the cheese team going into the series, because even though we won 51 games, 60 wins in a season for the Florida Panthers, they definitely should be the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year. But if we're able to contain their offense, which has been the best in the playoffs, I think we definitely have a chance. We have been a very good defensive team, so it could honestly work well in our favor if we actually play good defensively again against a very good offensive threat like Florida. And he was mentioning about the Seattle guys doing well, and yeah, that's true. The Seattle guys have been doing relatively good for our team, which is nice to see. We have Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. As you can see, Bjorkstrand's on 4 goals, so he hasn't been the most insane player in this playoff run, but he's been decent enough. Yanni Gourde, though, stepping up with 7 points on that third line has been very good for us, and I like to see how his production has been. And yeah, I think he was the only other Seattle guy we've had on this team, right? Yeah, I think he is the only other Seattle guy. But yeah, really liking the way that we're just getting good depth scoring. Also, Brock Nelson, shout out to him. He's been fantastic so far in this playoff run with 7 goals and 14 points. Most of those goals coming on the power play. Speaking of which, there's a comment from Dylan Burrows who says, Brock Nelson is a legit player. Happy we kept him. He has to retire an Islander at all costs. And yeah, I think he's going to likely retire, though, at the end of the season, I would assume. I know he's been producing really well, but usually guys that are in their last year of their contract, some of them always are decide to produce really well. So I feel like he is going to retire at the end of this year. Hopefully it's with a Stanley Cup win. If it's not, that would kind of suck. But I think he is going to retire at the end of the year. He actually has Ice Pack. I didn't even realize as a forward. I don't know if he generated that or not. But his shot blocking, let's see, what is his attribute for shot blocking? Oh, an 87. That's actually pretty damn good as a forward. I didn't even realize his shot blocking was that high. Does he actually block shots, though, in game 2? Let's see this. Regular season, only 10 block shots, though. And only 1 block in the playoffs. So I don't understand why he even gets Ice Pack. Like, I get that he has good shot blocking attributes, but he doesn't actually block shots. So it's kind of a little bit strange. But yeah, I really do like the way Brock Nelson's been with his team. He's a great captain. And like I said, eventually once he does retire, maybe Anton Frendel's the type of guy to take over the reins as the captain down the road. The next comment is from Ryan the Shark, who says, this is going to be a tough match. I could see this going to 7 games. And yeah, I feel like if we want to win the series, it goes to a minimum of 7 games. If we're going to lose, it could be anywhere between 4 and 7 games, because the Florida Panthers are such a good offensive team that they could easily knock us out in 4 games. But also, if our defense plays good enough in some of these games, we could definitely go to a game 6. We could go to a game 7, maybe just a game 5. But I think it's definitely going to be a close series in the sense that if we find our defensive play, we could win games. If they find their offensive game, they can win games. So it could be a little bit inconsistent with our defensive play and also their offensive play. And the last and final comments from Andrew Mitchell, who says, sorry, almost jinxed you there. Think with the caliber of Florida's offense, Mayfield should crack the lineup. So he thinks that Mayfield should get back into the lineup for this round against the Florida Panthers, which is interesting. Because Drew Doughty has been pretty good so far. I would say he is a -1 through 11 games, but he has been blocking a lot of shots. Like, maybe we keep Doughty in for game 1, and if Doughty's a minus player in any means, maybe I will give a chance to Mayfield to get back in, because Mayfield is likely going to be retiring soon too. And he was very good defensively during the regular season, but we haven't played him in quite a while at this point in time. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get him back in at some point in the series, but for right now, I think we'll just keep the roster the same because it's been winning. But obviously, if we start falling apart and losing games, I would get him back into the lineup to see if we could help out our defensive play a bit, because we do know that Florida is a high-flying offensive team, and their goaltending and defensive play hasn't been as good in the playoffs so far. So anyways, with that said, I think we're ready to get into the series against Florida, see if we could find ourselves in another Stanley Cup Finals. Obviously, last year we went to the Cup Finals, lost to Dallas. This year would be either Edmonton or Chicago if we're able to find ourselves there. I'm kind of worried that it's going to be another Edmonton-Florida Cup Finals because those seem to simulate really well in franchise mode, so I'm hoping that we're able to find a way to beat this Florida team. and suffocate that offensive touch that they have had so far through 2 rounds. But let's get into game 1 in Florida. Obviously, we aren't going to have home ice advantage in the series. Let's see if we could get some more wins on the road. I think we've been a pretty good road team so far up to this point, if I'm not mistaken. So just got to keep on winning games away from our ice and also on our home ice too if we can. So here we go. Game number 1 at Amarant Bank, I guess it's still called. Let's see what we could do here in game number 1, first period. 1-0 Florida. Okay, that's not bad. To be only down by a goal is good, but we are being outshot 19-8, so Florida is kind of getting that offense going for them. Matthew Tkachuk with the only goal in that first period, so their top 6 already has a goal, which is not ideal, because obviously once they start scoring, that's when they're going to start taking over games. So I'm hoping that obviously, because we're playing kind of good defensively, like we're giving up a lot of chances, but our goaltending's been good. I'm hoping that we can find our offensive touch a bit in the second period, or else we might have to start making some adjustments rather early into the series to try and get ourselves to contain Florida a little bit better going forward. But let's see if we could have a good second period here. Second period. 2-0 Panthers. Aaron Ekblad, yeah, all their good players are scoring goals so far. Not great. Shots are 31-16. Damn, they generate a lot of shots, good shots per game too, probably. Like, I would assume they're probably up there as one of the highest shooting teams in the NHL in terms of shots on goal. But we're being outshot 31-16. We have not generated enough offense, and we're playing, I would say, good goaltending-wise. Defensive play, I think we give up too much shots right now, but goaltending-wise, Sorokin's keeping us in this game. But we need to have a strong third period here if we want to get back into game 1. So let's see what happens in this third period, see if we could get back into this one. Or am I going to have to maybe make some adjustments going into game number 2? I don't know if I will, but Sam Reinhart makes it 3-0. Yeah, this game's probably over already at this point. Not the ideal first game. I'm not going to put it on Sorokin, though, because Sorokin has definitely kept us in this for the most part, but we just aren't generating enough chances on goal, and they're doubling us up in shots, and we get shut out in game 1, which is not great. So despite Florida's lackluster defensive play, they find a way to shut us out. And that's what I'm kind of worried on, is if Florida finds their defensive game, they'll have that offensive touch too, which we don't have as much of, and then they could beat us easily. But shots 43-22 at the end of that game. Good game for Sorokin. Everybody else, not so much. Not so much. Was there any badly minus players in that game? We had some -2s, and look who it was. Broberg and Doughty. Broberg and Doughty. So Doughty's going to come out of the lineup, and we are going to get back in Scott Mayfield because of that. So maybe Andrew was actually onto something with that. But yeah, Spencer Knight shuts us out. He gets second star, Tkachuk first star, and Reinhardt the third star of the game. Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to definitely already make that adjustment, because if we fall down in the series way too early, it's going to be a very tough hill to climb out of, because Florida's just one of those teams that if they keep on piling it on you, you're going to just suffocate and die, right? So let's go to edit lines here and get Mayfield back into that top 6 pairing, even though I think it does make it technically worse in chemistry, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll get Mayfield back in. Doughty will be scratched just for 1 game at least. And in terms of everything else, I don't really know if there's much I can do. I'm trying to think. I could get Nelson on the top line, but I don't have a guy that would actually be able to take a center face-offs on that third line if I did that. So I think we got to keep that the same. I could get Wood back up to the third line, but that third line has been a bit of an issue in plus-minus. Like, you can see Holmstrom's a -5, so I'm just going to keep it like that for now. And then defensively, we could bring back Romanov and Dobson's pairing, but I would prefer these guys to be split up a little bit, just because they have been the best so far. But yeah, Mayfield being back in will hopefully help things a bit. Sorokin's still been great in this playoffs. We're only down 1-0 in the series, so we're not down yet. If we could find a way to win this game, that would be a nice little answer heading home, because if we could win games on the road, then we have a better chance to win the series. So let's keep the rest of the same and head to game number 2. Currently in the Western Conference, Chicago's up 1-0 on the Edmonton Oilers, interestingly enough. Okay, let's get to game number 2 and see if we could have a response, see if we could find our offensive touch, because obviously we didn't score a single goal in that game. We need to be able to score in this next game, and we need to also limit their chances on goal, or else they're going to find ways to score. First period, game number 2. 1-1, I'll take it. They do open the scoring again. Matthew Tkachuk for the second straight game on the power play this time. Oliver Bjorkstrand answers for us, so good to see Bjorky on the board. Shots are 14-11 in favor of Florida, so at least it was closer in shots than it was last game, but they are still generating a lot of chances in the early going. So far, so good, though. Hopefully, we can find a way to get this lead, because we've not had a lead yet in this series. Second period? 2-1 Florida. Oh, boy. Lundell with a short-handed goal. Oh, boy. Now we're giving up short-handed goals as well. Not ideal. So their power play seems to be scoring goals on us, and their short-handed unit, of course. Third-line center, Anton Lundell, who's an 87. That's crazy still. Shots are 24-21 in favor of us, but we're down by a goal. So we are outplaying them, but they have the one goal advantage because of that shorthanded goal. I don't know why we gave up a shorthanded goal. Hopefully it wasn't a really bad one to give up, but let's see what happens in this third period. See if we can find a way to tie this game back up. Come on, boys. Let's get back on the board again. It could be anybody on the team. Power play for us. We do not score on it. Penalty kill. Nicely done, penalty killers. We're still down by one, though. We still need a goal from somebody, and Matthew Tkachuk makes it 3-1 Florida. Yeah, I think this is going to be a very tough series because Florida is finding that defensive identity they didn't have. And we are going to fall down 0-2 heading home, which is not ideal. I mean, you're not technically down in the series until you lose on home ice. So as long as we don't lose our 2 home games coming up, we'll be in an okay spot potentially. But shots were 35-28 in favor of us at the end of that game. So we definitely generated chances, but we've only been able to score 1 goal in the first 2 games of this Eastern Conference Finals. So Florida's definitely found a way to beat our offense, which is not good. Bjorkstrand from Vetrano and Nelson is the only goal we've had in this series so far up to this point. And Spencer Knight has been a difference maker. Matthew Tkachuk as well, because he's got 3 goals in 2 games. It's been close 2 games, I would say, in terms of scoring, but we've been outscored 6-1. And Casey Cizikas, that might be the end of his career potentially, has fractured his jaw. He'll be out till May 29th, so there will be an injury replacement. Unfortunately, Cizikas did score last round, but his career could be ended by that because if we get swept or something like that, he might not be back anytime soon, which kind of sucks. But who did that throw in for Cizikas, out of curiosity? Okay, so it threw in Beck Malenstein in that 4th line spot, so I think that's okay with me. Because Maggio's not a center by any stretch, and obviously we ain't putting Doughty on a 4 group. In the AHL, there's nobody that I would call up really anyways, so yeah, that's got to be the move. So Beck will be in, and then do I want to get Scott Mayfield back out of the lineup or not? He was an even 0 in that game, so at least he was better than Doughty, so we'll keep Mayfield in. We'll keep Mayfield in for now. And yeah, we'll keep the goaltending the same. Like, Sorokin's still been really good, but our offense is just not finding its consistency. So we might need to make some adjustments here. So Boson, let's see, 11 points. He's only a +1 though. Let's get Brock Nelson to the top line instead. And we'll have Horvat play with Vetrano, Bjorkstrand. Try and change things up a little bit. Not too much. And then we will probably go to, let's see. Oh, we could give Simon Holmstrom 4th line ice time. He hasn't been great defensively so far. Let's get Obey Kabul a little bit more ice time for a little bit difference. And then defensively, let me take a look at the plus minus. Dobson's still having a tough time defensively. Let's go Pollock and Pellick as the top pairing. Dobson and Romanov will be reunited, but on the second pairing, so with a little bit less ice time than usual, just because they haven't been that great defensively. So I think the rest of this will stay the same, but there's some little adjustments to try and see if our offense can improve a little bit and if our defensive play can improve a bit. We've allowed 3 goals in back-to-back games, which isn't terrible by any stretch, but I do want our defensemen allow a lot less shots if possible, and we need to find ways to score goals here because so far we have not been able to score goals since game number 6 against the Caps. We had 5 goals in that game, and since then we've only had 1. So, need to be a lot better in terms of the offensive consistency. I knew that was going to be a problem at some point, but of course it has to be against Florida, who is not usually a good defensive team, but they're great offensively. All right, let's get to game 3. This is kind of a must-win game because, like I said, if you lose a game on home ice, then you're either down 3-0 or you get swept potentially early on. So, yeah, if we could win both these home games, we're back to square one again, and it's anybody's series. But if we lose either of these games, we have a huge hill to climb. So, Can we get a response from our team in Game 3 now that we're back in our home building? First period, game number 3. 2-0 us. Okay, that's a great response. Hopefully that continues the rest of this game and also into next game. As Nicholas Obey-Kabul opens the scoring with a little bit more ice time. Matt Barzal also scores like a minute later. So 2 quick goals. And the shots are even 11-11. So they have been generating chances, but we have the 2-0 lead. So maybe Florida's just not good on the road, but they're good on home ice. Regardless, it's going to be interesting to see who ends up winning the series if we could crawl back into it. Let's see if we could hold on to this lead in the second period, because this is still a little bit of an unsafe lead at this point in time. Second period. Okay, they do get on the board, and of course it's Matthew Tkachuk again. He's got 4 goals in the series. He's been definitely their best player offensively so far. Shots are 25-20 in favor of them, but we're up by 1 goal only. We need Sorokin to play like a beast in this third period, and we need our offense to weather the storm a bit as well, and hopefully give ourselves a little bit more depth scoring in this game if possible. So we need to weather the storm though, because I know that Florida's going to be pushing for that equalizer. Let's hold them off. Let's get some insurance to make me feel a bit more safe. Let's see what happens in this final 20 minutes potentially. Come on, guys. Get that insurance marker. Power play for us. We do not score on it. Well, at least it took some time off the clock, but that power play goal would have been nice there. We're into the final 5 minutes, almost to the third period, still up by a goal. Can we lock this one down? Yes, maybe we can. Simon Holmstrom with a huge insurance marker to make it 3-1, and that will be it. So despite being outscored 3-1 in last game and 3-0 in game 1, we managed to win 3-1 in game 3. And now all of a sudden we're back in the series. So that's a huge win. Obviously we need to find a way to win next game as well, but we are back in the series. Like I said, you don't out of the series until you lose a home game. So just got to keep that positive attitude potentially going forward. So Obey-Kabul from Gordon Dobson. We had Barzal from Dobson and Wood. And then Holmstrom from Pelech and Wood. Not too bad. 3 stars of the game. Sorokin the first star. He's been great still in the series, I would say. Miles Wood the second star. And Dobson the third star. So we gave Dobson a little bit less ice time going to that second pairing, and he picked up 2 assists, so maybe that worked out in our favor a little bit. So it's been a very interesting series, though, so far, because 3-0 loss, 3-1 loss, 3-1 win. Is this going to be a 3-0 win for us? I don't really know, but I hope that we could win this game here, because if we win it, obviously, like I said, back to square one again. But if we lose this, we got to win 3 straight games, which is going to be very tough against that team. So I think we got to keep it the same the rest of the way, potentially. At this point in time, keep Doughty out of the lineup going into this game. I should actually take a look at how Mayfield's been fitting in on that top 6 pair. And I assume he's been pretty good, because we have been pretty... I'd say we've been better defensively since having him in the lineup. Like, if we go to edit lines here, he's probably, I'd say, still an even player. I don't think he's a plus player yet, but let's see. Because he doesn't get a lot of ice time a game. Oh, he's actually a -1. Never mind. Okay, so he's kind of similar to what Doughty was doing anyways. I could get Doughty back in, but I don't know if it's a risk. Doughty would help us out offensively a bit more, too, because Mayfield's more DFD. So, yeah, let's get Doughty back in. I know it's a bit of a risk, but let's get Doughty back in and see if he could drive some offense a bit more. Cizikas is getting closer to returning, so there is a chance that he could come back in the series, which is good. But obviously he's not going to provide us with offense. He's going to provide us with defense and face-off ability if he comes back in. So anyways, this is kind of another must-win game. Like I said, if we lose this game, we have a huge hill to climb. If we win it, though, we're back to square one. So can we win in game 4 as well and tie the series headed back to Florida after we were down originally 2-0? Come on, guys. This would show a lot of confidence from our team if we can. First period, game 4. 2-1 Florida, not good. We do open the scoring, which is good, Matt Barzal. But Tkachuk starts the party for the Florida Panthers. Ekblad gets a power play goal as well. We have been giving up a lot of power play goals from this Florida Panthers team. I mean, their offense is probably really insane on that power play, so it kind of makes sense. Like, they probably whip it around like crazy. But that's not good that Sorokin's already given up 2 goals. Because obviously last game he didn't even give up 2 goals. Shots 14-10 in favor of the Panthers after that first period. We need a big response in the second period. Like, we need to play good defensive hockey. Now allow a single goal against if possible. And we need to get at least a goal of our own to potentially give us a chance to tie the series up. Do we have a response in the second period? Second period? 3-3, we do have a response. Okay, we do score 2 goals. Bjorkstrand early, and another early goal from Ryan Pollock, but Sam Reinhart answers back for them. Shots are 23-19 in favor of the Florida Panthers. This is a pretty even game so far. Might be the closest game of the series in a sense. Last game was kind of close, I guess, as well, down to the last few minutes before we got that insurance marker, but this is another close game. If we could find a way to win this third period, we'll have a tie series, which is fantastic, but we need to be careful because we know Florida could score in bunches. So, do we have any other goals in us? Let's see what happens in period 3. Come on, guys. Penalty kill. Don't give them power plays either because we need to be more disciplined because that team is a little bit filthy. And we get the lead. Beck Malenstein. Okay, Beck Malenstein of all people. Literally the guy that's in as an injury replacement for Zizekas gives us the lead in the third period. And third period, Beck, is that the game winner? It is the game winner. Beck Malenstein, absolutely huge addition, I guess, to our team in the offseason, I think it was, gives us the win 4-3. And just like that, we have a tie series headed back to Florida. So far, the road team has not won a game. Final shots were 35-27 in favor of Florida, but we escape narrowly with a victory after a bad first period, I would say. So Barzal from Dobson, we had Bjorkstrand from Horvat, we had Pollock from Frondell Nelson, and Beck Malenstein from Pellick and Holmstrom. So nice to see us getting another win here on home ice. And just like that, we're back in the series. Just like that. No minus people in that game. How was Doughty in that game, out of curiosity? Played 16 minutes, had a shot on goal. Didn't really do too much, but that's not, you don't really need him to do a lot. So I'll take it. 3 stars of the game, Matthew Tkachuk for them, so they technically probably should have won that game based on that. But Ryan Pollock, 2nd star, and Beck Malenstein, a 3rd star. Oh, man. Is that going to be the only goal that Beck gets to score in this playoffs? Because Zizekas should be back relatively soon because of that, I would assume. Oh, he's going to be in the next game as well. I guess Zizekas will be back for maybe Game 7 if it gets there. I don't know when he was supposed to return. I think it was the 27th. But that's a huge response from our team to be able to win 2 home games in a row after losing 2 games to a tough team like that. Like, we didn't let them take over the series at all. So now it's a best of 3 going forward. And like, what was it? Who was it that said it? Oh, Ryan the Sharky said it was going to go to 7 games. I definitely see it going to 7 games at this point if it continues like this. It could still go to only 6 games, but I definitely see 7 the way it's been trending so far. So I think we got to keep the team the same. We've won 2 straight games. We've been getting great goaltending still, I'd say, for the most part from Sorokin. Maybe a couple hiccups here and there, but let's see if we could win a game on the road, because if we could find a way to win now 3 straight, there's a good chance that we might be able to close out this series. But first 2 games of the series weren't great, and these last 2 games have been good. They've been close games still, but I do like the way that we're able to contend still with a team that won 60 games. The Chicago Blackhawks actually pulled off the sweep on the Edmonton Oilers. Wow. So Connor McDavid is out. Connor Bedard is going to the Stanley Cup Finals, likely, if he's still on that roster, which he probably should be. I don't think he got dealt at all. But Chicago in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2028. I don't think I had that on my bingo card based on how they're playing still in real life, but I think we're going to keep the team the exact same going into game number 5. Let's see who could take the series lead. We've won 2 straight games. Is Florida going to find a way to win another home game, or are we going to respond and win on the road and give ourselves a chance to win on home ice? So let's see what happens. This is a big, big game. We keep the team the exact same. Don't make any adjustments. Maybe Beck has another big goal in him. Who knows? First period, game number 5. 1-0 us. Matt Barzal. It wasn't an early goal this time. It was a late goal in that first period with 44 seconds left. We are also being outshot 10-7. So far, Sorokin seems up to the challenge, which is good. Our offense is able to score a goal as well, which is also good. So hopefully it can continue to do that going forward. Let's see if we can get some insurance in the second period to make it a bit more safe going into the third period, potentially. Second period. 3-0 us. Let's go. Doughty, a short-handed goal again. I think his first goal with us was short-handed too, if I remember right. And Brock Nelson, the guy who has been doing it all for the team, at least in the last few series, and the captain of the team, gives us a 3-0 lead. Shots are only 15-15 after 2, so this is a very low-shooting game. Not a lot of chances for both teams. Must be a kind of a neutral zone type of game. But we have a 3-0 lead going into the third period. And just like that, we're a period away from potentially going to Game 6, where we have a chance to close out the series. Let's see if we can do this, guys. Close out this game, get a win on the road. But this has been a great response from the team after the first two games, because after those first two games, I was very worried. But Yanni Gourde makes it 4-0. I think we're actually going to be able to find a way to win a game in Florida, which probably not a lot of teams have been able to do so far up to this point, my guess. But huge statement from the team. We just got to find a way to win next game as well. And Sorokin picks up a 21 save shutout. We didn't give them really anything. We played up to our strength. Great defense, and our offense also showed up too. Like 21 shots from that offensive core that they have is very low. So that's a huge win from our team. And we're one win away from the Stanley Cup Finals for the second consecutive season. So Barzal from Romanov and Frundell, Doughty from Horvat, Nelson from Barzal, and Gourde from Bjorkstrand and Obey-Kabul. Nice. There wouldn't be any minus players in that game, but Barzal gets first star, Sorokin the second star, and Drew Doughty the third star of the game. Yeah, I think that addition of Drew Doughty's been very nice, actually. Like, I wanted to keep Mayfield kind of in the lineup, but Doughty's been kind of helping us out a bit with the offense from time to time, so he's been good. But both teams have had a shutout in this round, which is interesting. And just like that, like I said, we're one win away from another Stanley Cup Finals. We already know that if we win this game, it would be against Chicago that we'd face them for the Stanley Cup. But, wow. Very, very happy with the way we've been playing as of late. Like, we're still showing that we're a great defensive team as of late. And our offense has been a bit inconsistent, like I said, still at times. But at least after dropping 2 straight games, we were able to win 3 straight. So I think we got to keep the team the same for this next game as we look to close them out on home ice. If we go to Game 7, hopefully we can find a way to win it. I just don't want it to go to Game 7 at this stage because I don't think it would work really well for us because it would be back in Florida. But never know. We could potentially win still in Game 7 if we get there. But I'd prefer to win the series in 6 games while we have the chance to. So can we close out the Florida Panthers on home ice? Are we going to a Game 7? Let's keep the team the same, see what ends up happening. I think we'll do a real-time simulation for this game just because it's a big game in this team's history potentially. So let's see if we can find a way to get that first goal of the game. We did it last game. It'd be nice to score another first-period goal if possible for our team. Penalty kill to start this game. We kill it off. Nicely done. Power play for us. We don't score on it, but we generated some chances, which is good. And is it going to be the first scoreless first period? Yes, it is. Okay. Shots 12-10 in favor of us, so we generated a little bit more chances than them, but fairly even first period for the most part. Can we find a way to get that lead? This could be a very defensive-minded game. So far, Sorokin hasn't allowed a goal in the last 4 periods, which is good, but obviously it could come crashing down at any moment. So just got to keep on playing good defensively, and we need to get some offense to chip in as well, if possible. So second period underway on home ice. Looking to close the series out as Florida opens the scoring. Mackie Samoskevich, not good. We had a power play, but we don't tie it up. But a little bit afterwards, Bo Horvat has tied the game up, and Brock Nelson, the clutch man himself, gives us our first lead of the night, but Boquist answers back on the power play. And we answer right back. Nicholas Obey-Kabul gives us a 3-2 lead. Dobson gives us a 4-2 lead. That's a huge goal from Noah Dobson. That is a crazy, crazy period after a scoreless first. And we're going to be up by 2 goals going into the third with the shots 26-20. I didn't like that they scored 2 goals in that period, but the 4 goals from us, that's huge. Horvat, Nelson, Obey-Kabul, and Dobson. And we're a period away from potentially going back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Pretty damn awesome if we could hold off Florida for another 20 minutes. And then if we do get to the Cup Finals, we'd face off against Chicago, which isn't going to be an easy task by any means, but it's going to be interesting because it might be Connor Bedard's first ever Stanley Cup Finals in the series, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what happens in period number 3. See if we close them out. One more goal would definitely be very helpful at this point for our team. Oh no, Reinhart pulls them within 1. Come on, Sorokin, I believe in you, man. Hey, huge goal again from Noah Dobson. So Dobson with some huge goals in Game 6 here. We're up by a pair of goals, looking to close them out. I'm going to maybe intervene. Actually, maybe I'm not going to intervene. Nah, I would rather see us win a Stanley Cup and intervene then. Vetrano gets an insurance marker. Your New York Islanders are headed back to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second consecutive season, knocking out the best team in the league, probably, in the Florida Panthers. Ooh, wow. After we went down 2-0, like I said, I was quite worried, but our team didn't really change much in the roster. changed up a couple lines, but we've managed to find a way to win in 6 games and get ourselves back there again. Let's go. Let's friggin' go. So, Horvat from Bjorkstrand and Vetrano. We had Nelson from Barzal and Pollock. We had Obeo Kabul from Parson and Gore. Dobson's first to the playoffs from Nelson. Dobson again from Romanov and Obeo Kabul. And Vetrano from Horvat in Bjorkstrand. So Dobson's first 2 goals of the playoffs are in a huge game like that. I like to see that. So Dobson has been much better since being put down to the second pairing. So a little bit less ice time, but he's been producing better, I feel like. And a lot of guys with points. A lot of guys that were plus as well. No minus players. Only 3 players weren't plus. Doughty, Holmstrom, and Broberg. Alright. And Sorokin with a 909, which isn't the best for him, but it's still good enough to win a game in the playoffs. So Dobson first star, Nelson second star, and Horvat the third star. Nicely done. So I don't think we allowed more than 3 goals against per game in that series, right? No, we didn't. Because even in the losses, we allowed 3 goals. So we're still very solid defensively. Even in those losses, I would say we were good. But offensively, we just started to find ourselves over the last 3 games again, which is huge. So we're 12-5 in the playoffs. We know we're going to be facing Chicago next round. Let's first take a look at our player stats now through 3 rounds of the playoffs. We'll then take a look at what Chicago did during the regular season and the playoffs, and then we'll get into what the roster looks like, because I am kind of curious on what they look like. We also should look at what we did during the regular season against them, because I am curious on the season series. Like, we would have only played 2 games against them, but I am curious on how good we did against them, because I don't even know what their roster would look like at this point, like if they added any new pieces or what. But Brock Nelson still over a point per game on 19 points. He's been fantastic. We have Horvat on 15 points through 17 games. Barzal's on 11, so he's been not the best player in the playoffs, but he's been good. We have Gord on 10 points, Parson on 9. Suzuki's only on 2, but he will be back for the Stanley Cup Finals. Beck Mallenstein had a game-winning goal. We got a shout-out to him, at least helping us getting back in that series. So Beck with a big goal. Left wing side of things, Frondell on 9 points. He's been actually kind of quiet as of late. Kind of quiet. Like, when did he last get a point? Out of curiosity. He actually had some points against Florida, 2 assists. But since then, he's only had like 1 goal, 2 assists since the Washington series. 1 goal, 4 assists since Washington. Yeah, he was better a little bit earlier on in this playoff run. He hasn't been as good since. Wood on 8 points. Pretty damn solid. Bjorkstrand 11 points. Vetrano 9 points. Holmstrom 8 points. And Obey Kabul with 7 points. Nicholas Obey Kabul has been a fantastic addition to that 4th line. He's been great. Because in that series, I think he was one of our better players, right? If we go to game logs. He had 2 points in that last game. Had 1 point the game before. Yeah, he was literally one of our best players against the Florida Panthers. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. So that's pretty big from a 4th line kind of guy. Defensively, we have Dobson on 16 points. We have Pelech on 8 points plus 14. We have Romanov on 5 points plus 5. Dobson and Romanov are also now plus players too, which is huge. Pollock 5 points plus 11. Doughty's minus 1 still, but 3 points. And I believe both of his goals have been shorthanded. Yep, they have. Shout out to Drew Doughty. Shorthanded legend. Broberg on 1 assist, minus 3. And then Mayfield was minus 1 in 2 games. Goaltending side of things, Sorokin's got a 925. He's been really good. So far, it's been Brock and Sorokin, I'd say, that are potentially Conn Smythe candidates if we do find a way to win a Stanley Cup this season. But there is that. Let's take a look at how Chicago did during the regular season and playoff-wise compared to us so far. And then we'll actually get to the rosters. So if we go to, I guess we'll go to entire league at this point. We were the 6th best team. Where was Chicago? They were 12th. Okay, so not too far off, I would say. But they finished with 16 less points than us this season, 10 less wins. They scored 3.33 goals for per game. We scored 3.46. We allowed 2.78. They allowed 3.11. Their power play was 19.5. Ours was 16.3. So they might have better special teams. Yeah, they have better special teams in the regular season. 86.5% on the PK as well. So that's the difference in the regular season was their special teams. So far in the playoffs, if we go to entire league and sort by wins here, we are 12-5. They are 12-6. They've been scoring more goals for per game than us. They've been allowing more goals though per game than us. So we're better defensively. They're better offensively. Again, just like the Florida Panthers were. Power play. Their power play has been better than ours. And their penalty kill's been worse than ours. So, yeah, we're a better defensive team. They're a better offensive team again. Yeah, okay. So that'll be interesting. I'm kind of curious on what they have on their roster other than Bedard. Probably like Frank Nazar's now in the NHL, I would assume, but I'm not too sure. So let's take a look at what Chicago's looking like. They finished 41-32-9 during the regular season. They have Igor Shesterkin as their starting goaltender. Of course they do. I forgot almost that he was in Chicago now, but let's see what they got. Let's see what they got around Bedard. I feel like I remember them adding some really good pieces around Bedard in the trade deadlines, but I'm not too sure. First line, Michael Bunting, Connor Bedard, Alex Tuch. I mean, Alex Tuch next to Bedard's very good. Bunting is pretty good too, but he hasn't been super good. He is a bit overly top aggressive, but yeah, that's pretty solid. Second line has Ilya Mikheyev, who I guess returned to Chicago. No, he's always been in Chicago, I guess. Okay. Jason Dickinson's still there, and there is Frank Nazar. Very solid top six. Third line, Jack Roslovic, Lars Eller, and Anthony Beauvillier. And a fourth line of Lucas Reichel, Kevin Hayes, and JVR. JVR still playing at 39, huh? Yeah, that's a pretty good team. Very good center depth. Left wing depth is great as well. Right wing depth is also great, even with JVR still playing. Yeah, it's a very good forward group for the Chicago Blackhawks. Defensively, Korchinski and Jones. They also have Lauzon and Gavrikov, solid second pairing. Vlasic and Kovacevic. It's kind of an interesting defensive core because I wouldn't call any of these guys a stud. Like, I mean, Korchinski's a potential stud. Seth Jones was really good in his prime, but he's dropping off a bit. These guys are pretty much like, Lauzon's a physical defenseman, I know, in real life. Gavrikov's a good shutdown guy. Vlasic's, I think, a solid shutdown guy. And then Kovacevic, in real life, I think he was off to a good start this season in real life with New Jersey, but I don't know how he simulates. It doesn't look like he simulates that good offensively. From a goaltending perspective, there's Igor Shesterkin. We know Igor's a very good goaltender. 912 save percentage during a regular season this year. Last year, I did 921. Damn. Playoffs, 12-5. This is, I guess, the farthest Chicago's ever made it in the playoffs with Shesterkin so far. Yeah, they've only made the playoffs 2 times since the start of this franchise mode, I guess, which is interesting. And then there is Gabriel Dag, who's their backup. So they have 2 really good goaltenders. That's pretty much the main difference, is they have 2 good goaltenders to go to. And Gabriel Dag, not so good in his rookie season during the regular season, but in the playoffs, he's played 2 games. Somehow it's a 923 save percentage despite having a 4.03 goals against, which is kind of weird. Huh, all right. So they have 2 good goaltenders that they can go to. They have some really good offensive players. Obviously, Connor Bedard's probably leading the team with 22 points in 18 games. We definitely got to shut him down if we want a chance to win the cup. And then defensively, I'd say they're pretty balanced, but I definitely don't think they're as tough as Florida. But obviously, since we just played a tough Florida team, maybe we're a little bit worried, like our team is a little bit worn down. Chicago could take advantage of that, which is not good. So there is that. I don't think there's anything else I want to take a look at, right? Oh yeah, the regular season. I wanted to take a look at how we did during the regular season series against them, because I am kind of curious on what you guys think based on that. Like, I might want to take a look at the box scores too. Yeah, we're only 43 minutes into this episode. Let's take a look at that. So when we played Chicago in the regular season, we won one game 4-3. That was back on November the 10th. And then our other game against them was later in the year. And it was a 6-5 loss on March the 9th. So looks like a pretty even Stanley Cup Finals potentially based on that. So November the 10th and March 9th. Okay, let's take a look at both those games. November the 10th, March 9th. Got to remember that. So we'll go to March 9th that started off, I guess, the later season game, because that's when we'd actually have our current roster, I think, for the most part. So March the 9th against Chicago, we lose 6-5. Let's take a look at the box score in that game. So they went up 3-1 after the first period. Nelson scored his 37th goal of the season during that one. Second period, Dobson scored his 9th of the season. Korchinski answered back. So they were up basically 4-2 after 2 periods. Third period, we managed to score 3 goals in that third period, which is pretty nice to see. Pollock, Vetrano, and Romanov. But Jones and Mikheyev scored for them. So pretty high-flying game in terms of offense. Who was the 3 stars in those games? That game? Mikheyev, Dobson, and Dickinson. Okay. Who is badly minus in that game out of curiosity as well? Doughty was. Maybe we take Doughty out for a series based on regular season stuff. Like him and Broberg had a tough time when they played against him. I mean, I don't know if it would really play a huge factor based on the regular season, but that's an interesting one. And then if we go back to November the 10th, obviously this is before we made some adjustments at the deadline and all that. So this is our old roster pretty much on paper. If we go to this game, it was, yeah, down here. We won this game 4-3, so another close game. In that first, actually, all the goals were in the second period except for one goal of theirs. Damn, that's kind of crazy. So Coughlin opened the scoring. Barzell responded. Horvat scored as well. Holmstrom and Pelech scored 2 late in the period. Bavolia gave them a chance in the third period, but they couldn't tie it up. That's interesting. What were the plus minuses like in that game? Zigos was minus. Maggio was playing in that game. Parson was playing in that game as well. Trying to think. Varlamov actually started that game, so it wasn't Sorokin in net. That's an interesting one. Okay. So I don't know if there's anything I would do in terms of adjustments, though, if we're playing them. Like, do we take Drew Doughty out to the lineup just because of how he played against them in the regular season? Or do we keep him in? That's an interesting thing. All right. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it back to the Stanley Cup Finals again as we look to at least get one Stanley Cup with this roster before we start to tear down. But we have to go through Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks, which hypothetically will be easier than the Florida Panthers, but also we could be a little bit worn out from that series, and I hope that it doesn't play into Chicago's hands a little bit going forward. Guys, think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.